All right, part three. Okay, so next thing we'll talk about what comes in and out of the cell. Okay, so substances can enter and exit the cell through the cellular membrane. Again, that's what the whole cellular membrane is for, right? The cellular membrane, okay, is to allow things to actually enter and exit the cell, and the cell membrane decides what it allows to enter and exit the cell. Okay. So it does this by forming a barrier, right? Only when you have a barrier can you allow things to enter and exit. Okay. So the cell membrane, the phospholipid bilayer here, okay, can allow things to go through or not, and that's dependent on two factors. One is the concentration gradient, how much is on the inside already and how much is on the outside. Okay, and two, the chemical nature of the substance, its polarity, charge, size. Okay, the bigger it is, the harder it is to get through the cell membrane. Okay, if it's polar, then it's going to be hard to get through the polar cell membrane. If it's charged, it's definitely even harder to get through the cell membrane. Okay, so the term gradient is a concentration difference. Okay, so imagine you just put a freshly bound tea into the solution here, okay, into your solvent. What you'll see slowly is the tea starting to diffuse out. Okay, so at this time, there is more tea particles here near the bag than it is on the corner of the cup where there's no, the tea hasn't entered yet. Okay, so that's a gradient, high concentration, low concentration. Okay, the difference in concentrations is the gradient. Okay, as time passes, things move from a high concentration to the low concentration. Okay, so by the end, the concentration gradient disappears, and now there's no difference between the concentration of this corner and that corner of the tea. Okay. 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 Maintaining a concentration gradient requires energy. So if you just left the tea alone, it goes to this state where there's no gradient. Okay. To physically maintain a gradient, I have to physically push all the tea particles back toward where the tea bag is. So that requires a lot of energy. Okay, a gradient is more ordered than no gradients. Okay, entropy tends to increase unless there's some type of force preventing it. What could be done to prevent this diffusion of tea in this figure? You can literally push the tea back toward the bag. Okay. All right. Okay. Simple diffusion is a type of transport that doesn't require any energy. When you hear the word passive, passive means it doesn't require energy. Active means it requires energy. Okay. Okay. Simple diffusion is a type of passive transport. It takes place where there's a concentration gradient on one side, so it goes from high concentration to low concentration. Okay. Molecules always move down their concentration gradient. Okay. Small nonpolar molecules, so oxygen, CO2, can always go from simple diffusion. Okay. Okay. The next thing is something called osmosis. Osmosis is a diffusion of water molecules. Okay, so here, okay, if you have something from high concentration, low concentration, usually what happens is the thing that's in high concentration will pass and it'll equal eventually. Okay, it will go from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, but if that particle cannot pass through that hole, okay, see these solid particles, they can't pass through that hole. Okay, so if that temperature equals things out, water actually passes from an area of high concentration to low concentration. So now you're pushing water to the other side instead of the organic molecule here passing from the right to left, is water passing from left to right. Okay. Okay. So water molecules move down the concentration gradient. Okay. Okay. Osmosis is actually a very important concept in plant life. Okay. Osmosis determines the water content in plant cells. So in plant cells, what happens is when you put water, you put pure water, right? And so the salt inside the plants, the salt particles inside the plants are actually higher than the water around it. Okay, so what actually happens is instead of driving the salt out, the salt can't leave. So the water enters the plant. Okay, the water is forced inside the plant, which actually makes the plant swell. Okay, so when a plant is healthy, okay, this central vacuole is getting bigger and bigger and actually pushes against the cell wall, and that keeps the plant rigid. Okay, if you give it salt water, or if you don't give it water at all, what happens is the water will eventually leave the vacuole through evaporation, and it will cause the cells to shrink away from the cell wall. That shrinking away the cell wall causes the wilting. Okay, this pressure that the plant forces on the cells is called Turgor pressure. Okay. Okay. Osmosis also determines water content in animal cells. Okay. Our blood, okay, this is our normal red blood cell. The normal red blood cell is in an isotonic solution. Isotonic means it's same. Tonic, salt concentration. So the same salt concentration on the inside and outside of the cell. So just as much water goes in as out. Okay. The blood cell in a hypotonic solution. Hypo less, tonic salt, less salt. Okay. It means more water is entering the cell than leaving, and that makes it swell. And if it stays in there too long, actually, the cell will actually burst open. Okay. All right. The blood cells in a hypertonic solution. Hypertonic. Okay. Hyper, too much salt. So what happens is water will come rushing out to meet the salt, and therefore not a lot of water will go in, and that will make it shrivel. Okay. Okay, facilitated diffusion does not require energy. So facilitated diffusion This is facilitated diffusion. Okay, facilitated diffusion, you go from area of high concentration to low concentration, but you don't go directly through the membrane, you go through a hole. Okay, but still high concentration to low concentration. Okay, active transport requires energy. Active transport, you're going from an area of high concentration, you're going from an area of low concentration to high concentration. In other words, you're going against the chemical gradient. Okay. Okay. So one of the most important pumps in the body is something called a sodium potassium pump. Okay. All your cells have this pump. You pump out all the the vast majority of the sodium out of the cell, and you pump in vast majority of the potassium into the cell. Okay, so here I'm working against diffusion, right? I'm constantly working against diffusion. If I'm constantly working against diffusion, then I require energy to do so. I need to actively do this. I need to keep pumping up sodium, keep bringing in potassium, and that's going to require a constant amount of energy in forms of ATP. Okay, so here I am pumping sodium out of the cell, and then I pump potassium into the cell. So I'm establishing a concentration gradient. Okay, sodium is always on the outside, potassium is always on the inside. Okay. Okay, so why does it require energy? Because it moves solutes against their concentration gradients. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, endocytosis. Endocytosis is where I move kind of bigger chunks of things. Instead of just smaller things that pass through the membrane, I move big, huge molecules that cannot cross the membrane. So think insulin or big, huge, like even bacteria. You can bring them inside by using endocytosis. Okay, exocytosis, same thing, but opposite. You're moving big chunks outside the cell, and this requires energy. So here, I bring things in by folding in the membrane into a circle, and that circle is now called a vesicle. Okay, I can also make a vesicle and get things to leave the membrane. Okay. All right. So here, okay. Small nonpolar molecules can passively diffuse across the membrane when there's a concentration gradient. This is simple diffusion or facilitated diffusion. Okay. Large polar molecules are actively transported into the cell, regardless of gradient. This is the membrane pumps. This is the vesicles. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. And I will see you on. I'll see you guys on Monday. All right. Hi, everybody.